The queen stage of this year's Vuelta, and Jumbo-Visma put on an exhibition, attacks left, right and centre, with the stage starting in Spain but crossing into France for the majority of the stage. Climbs that will be familiar to you Tour de France watchers: Aubisque, Spandelles, which was in the Tour de France last year. The descent is where Pogacar crashed, and then the famous Tourmalet, but approach from the west side. The last 2Ks are very steep, over 2100 meters altitude. Kuss in the red jersey, 26 seconds ahead of Soler. It would be a big test for him, and the little 10-minute climb at the start wasn't enough to get a breakaway going, and on the descent, despite Bardet going ahead, it was pretty much locked down, not a technical enough descent. It was on the Aubisque where the break needed to form, or where people were trying to form the break, which meant it was really stop-start, really fast. You can see Jumbo-Visma with Kelderman and Geesink. They're monitoring who's jumping in the break, who's going, and it was Thomas, Kjell Uijtdebroeks, Max Poole. It was looking good for a bit until João Almeida, the eagle-eyed of you, will have seen that he was already struggling at the back of the group when all this jumping was happening, about halfway into the Aubisque, and so Jumbo-Visma maybe lifted the pace a bit, and it was confirmed when, okay, sometimes Almeida does drop early, but this was way too early for him. And then with Jumbo having domestiques to pace and the draft really important, it wasn't looking good. And then Remco Evenepoel, he's in this bubble of quick-step riders. You can just see his white jersey. The cameras didn't pick up on it for quite a while, but he drops with a third of the Aubisque left. He was the man ahead of Roglic, ahead of Vingegaard and Ayuso on GC. And now Jumbo for sure are going to absolutely smash this, with Almeida behind, Evenepoel now a minute behind them on the Aubisque. And with Geesink there to pace, he was going to lose big time and fall completely out of GC. But on the Aubisque descent, or just before, Bahrain tried to mount a descent raid, and they're joined by the red jersey. Sepp Kuss tags onto the back of Mikel Landa or Caruso's wheel, and it's Jonas Vingegaard, the yellow jersey, absolutely flying down too, trying to join them on this descent attack. They go clear, with the Caruso doing the majority of the work for Landa. Then there's Spandelles, a 10k 8% hard climb where Pogacar attacked 6 times last year. Caruso's pacing full gas. Jumbo are getting a quote-unquote free ride in the wheels with Jonas and Kuss, and whilst Landa's trying to move up on GC, and UAE having to pace and spend. Finn Fisher-Black, he catches them. Vingegaard just goes again, tags onto the back of Landa. Fisher-Black can't respond, Soler can't respond, Ayuso's not there. And this is the second last climb. We still have the Tourmalet coming. Ayuso's back here in the wheel of Fisher-Black. And Soler, if he's not able to do what he did after Fisher-Black paced, which is closing down Vingegaard and Landa, going super hard on the Spandelle multiple times, working together because Vingegaard's ahead of Landa on GC. If he's not able to do this, maybe they just ride away from it. Now he's looking back thinking, Finn Fisher-Black's gone, Vine's not in the race, Almeida has completely collapsed this stage, and there's 3 Jumbo-Vismas looking at me. Not a good situation for the man who started the day second on GC. Kelderman comes back to the front with Geesink to restore a bit of order for the last half of Spandelle, and it calms down a little bit. For the next half an hour or so of the stage, they get into the 20k valley, Geesink paces, Ayuso and Jumbo talk to the car, refuel, but what's going to happen with Marc Soler? Surely Jumbo-Visma aren't going to want to let him stay in second on GC ahead of Roglic with the Tourmalet coming up. The last 2Ks, 10%, up to 2,100 meters. And Roglic, all of a sudden, when Geesink's finished pulling, the camera sort of picked up on it too. He was sitting really deep in the group, not with Vingegaard, Kelderman or Kuss. He's sitting behind Vlasov, and Soler's tagged onto the back of him too. The jersey goes open as well. Was he having a moment? Was he struggling? What would Jumbo-Visma do if he did start struggling? The answer was they were going to absolutely send it with the Tour de France champion attack. Instead of just trying to tow Kuss to the line, Vingegaard goes once with 8Ks to go. Ayuso marks him that time. But now look, no Soler, 3 Jumbo-Visma, they're already leading GC virtually at this point on the road. Maybe Vingegaard starts pacing for Kuss? Answer, no. He attacks once again. Uijtdebroeks can't respond, and he just holds them at about 10 meters for quite a while, with Mas trying to get back to his wheel. he's been brave this Vuelta, Mas, actually. Look how close he got to Vingegaard. Maybe the stage would have been different if he got back to his wheel. Ayuso's looking down the barrel of Roglic and race leader Kuss sitting on his wheel as well as Uiterbroeks. And Mas, he probably makes the wise decision at this point not to do what he did on Havelambre. He could end his race and end a top 5 result right there. He stops chasing Vingegaard, and at that point, it was pretty clear Vingegaard was going to win the stage unless he had a meltdown, because who wants to pull with Roglic, who's won the Vuelta 3 times in the Giro this year in your wheel? Who wants to chase after Vingegaard, the 2-time Tour de France champion, especially when you got Soler, who's second on GC behind? They're practically pulling him away, and they sort of want to fight for their own top 5, top 4 positions as well, so Mas attacks when there's a lack of cooperation. Kuss tags onto his wheel. Roglic is on Ayuso's wheel, and so the guys behind just work over Uiterbroeks, Mas, and Ayuso ruthlessly, whilst Vingegaard sets his steady, heavy pace ahead. And then the eagle of Durango, Kuss, senses an opportunity. He doesn't want to give the red jersey away so easily to Vingegaard. He helped him in the Tour de France. Bang! Attacks Enric Mas, and so Ayuso, Mas have to do another effort chasing GC Kuss, who is looking the best he's ever been. Mas was super strong though. I do wonder if he was able to get onto Vingegaard's wheel, what would have happened, because maybe Vingegaard still works with him, but he brings Kuss back, they pull up stumps, and with all this looking around, this is giving extra time to Jonas Vingegaard, and it's just that effect, that psychologically demoralizing effect of having these guys marking your every move and then other people surging. It's not as efficient as the way Vingegaard was riding, and Jumbo-Visma also have the 2 guys virtually leading GC in this group with Ayuso, who I think started to ride against Mas. Those 2 were attacking each other at this point. We didn't really know how far up the road Vingegaard was because the time gap stopped showing, but with 1,200 meters to go, Kuss launches a huge attack. The spectator checks his momentum. He goes on with it anyway. This one they won't bring back. Roglic tries to counter Mas and Ayuso, and Jumbo-Visma, not content with the stage or the red jersey, are looking for the 1, 2, 3. Jonas Vingegaard, though, looking back to his best. Not the best time trial, but in the high mountains, there ain't nobody better. Vingegaard wins the stage with Sepp, Kuss keeping his red jersey, actually closing Vingegaard a fair bit in the last kilometre, and Roglic not far behind him either. Capping off a perfect day for Jumbo-Visma. 1, 2, 3 on the stage, Evenepoel out of GC, Ayuso third, on 5 seconds behind Roglic. Vingegaard wins by 30 seconds, then Marslanda, Vlasov, Kras, Soler. But happiness for Jumbo-Visma, disappointment for Evenepoel and Almeida. They both fall out of, I think, the top 9 on GC. Almeida might be keeping 9th, but with a big gap to Uiterbroeks, and Jumbo-Visma have a commanding lead. Kuss, 1:37 ahead of Roglic. Vingegaard, 7 seconds behind Roglic on 1:44, with a gap of nearly a minute to Juan Ayuso. Can anyone put them under pressure for the rest of this Vuelta? Maybe we'll find out tomorrow. Until then, ciao.